Hi guys, welcome to DeFi Summit. This is going to be the value of virtual collectibles and NFT non-fungible tokens, and what does DeFi have to do with it? Now, I have two great panelists that are going to be on here today. My name is Michael. I'm going to be the personal moderator for this panel. We have Jesse from Avagachi and also LK Shelley from Affinity Ventures. So Shelley has over 21 years of international experience in the US, EU, Asia, and Japan. She has participated and transacted investments from 5 million to 900 million and exited a couple of ventures on her own. LK is also the managing partner of Affinity Ventures. Collectively, it invests in early-stage mobile-first startups, including technology platforms, media, digital media, entertainment, content, as well as mobile gaming. She has been a speaker and given talks in numerous major conferences and events, including TEDx, and topics related to blockchain. She holds an MBA and MS degrees from MIT. Also, another person on stage is also Jesse from Abagachi, also known as Golden Cross. So Golden Cross is among the earliest pioneering NFT product designs. Prior to launching Avagachi, Jesse co-founded Ethereum's first NFT minting platform, Mintable, and also created BullionX, home for the first ERC 721 NFTs to be staked directly with ERC20 tokens, including the DGX Gold. Jesse envisioned Avagachi through Pixelcraft Studios' flagship experience as an expansion of value-staked NFTs to break down the walls between DeFi and NFT. Jesse is dedicated to leveraging blockchain technology to create products that empower the individuals. Welcome, guys. Welcome to DeFi Summit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To kind of like jump into the panel discussions a little bit, Jesse, or Golden Cross, sorry, would you be able to give a brief rundown of Avagachi to the audience?
Sure. So Avagachi is kind of the next generation in this idea of a crypto pet. I guess if we want to start there, a concept many here will already be familiar with, your crypto kitties, your blockchain cuties, those kind of crypto pets. And the difference with an Avagachi is that we're merging some of the stuff I've done on previous projects like BullionX, where we were taking value that's captured on chain and staking it inside of an NFT. So you have that collateral, plus you have the speculative value of the rarity of the particular NFT. So an Avagachi is actually, at its simplest form, a cute little ghost, right? The one behind me, cute little digital ghost that is 100% on chain, unlike a lot of the visual art NFTs out there today, and staked with Aave or Ava interest generating tokens. So it's like a piggy bank. This is an NFT piggy bank that exists 100% on chain as long as we're on layer 2. So as long as that Polygon Matic network blockchain exists, these Avagachis are not going anywhere. They are 100% on chain, from the visuals to all the other metadata. So there's 10,000 of these little guys running around right now, and they have a lot of other interesting features that make them distinct from maybe a CryptoKitty or something like that, because everything's iterative, right? So I have a lot of CryptoKitties, I love them, but I started realizing certain things I wish my other NFTs had, like, for example, a proof of interaction. If it's a crypto pet, I should have some way to acknowledge or see that I actually have a reason to interact with it every day. You don't neglect your pets. And I was only taking my CryptoKitty out every so often to show a friend as a demonstration or to speculate and trade it on OpenSea. But with a Avagachi, it actually measures how many on-chain interactions you do with it. And you have to pet your Avagachi every day, or you're going to see your kinship score fall, and the facial expressions on your Avagachi will also change in kind. So it's really quite sticky, we found. It's a really fun feature, and the goal is that these are like, you're creating a bond with your Avagachi. You name it, you pet it, you dress it, and in the end, you end up getting so attached to it that you don't want to sell it. You actually have a new crypto pet in the truest sense. So that's kind of the high level idea behind Avagachi, and then the whole interest generating part is kind of like the cherry on top.
Excellent, excellent. And also, LK, would you be able to give kind of like a brief rundown of Affinity Ventures as well?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me today, and also a great introduction. So just give you a little bit flavor. I and the firm started looking at the blockchain since 2016, 2017. So we sort of call it one of the spike, cycle in the blockchain industry. And we all know that it had sort of collapsed in 2017, 18, and now it's good to see that it's in full circle and going way, way, way bigger than before. So we actually looked at the sort of Nifty or NFT type of digital collectibles again in 2017 because we are quite connected with the mobile gaming folks, right? So I know the founder of Sandbox. Back in the day, they were still sort of evolving, right? They were still 2D mobile games, and then started looking at migrating to 3D and then putting on blockchain. And then, of course, they got acquired by bigger publishers too. So then they can really drive that big development. And then, but we didn't see what was coming was like the whole NFT, not just, collectibles, but really penetrating the fine art markets. So I think, starting from mid 2020 last year, there were a lot more, marketplaces came out, and then a lot of like artists getting involved in the marketplaces. So to me, those are not like exactly what like Golden Course mentioning, right? There's no sort of a system behind it, right? It's really static. Some are digital artists bringing their artworks to the marketplaces, to the blockchain. Some are just really actually bring their own traditional physical art pieces to the blockchain. So for us, we feel like I think it's really early. Like, all these marketplaces are actually not decentralized, right? And then there are still a lot of confusion per se, like what exactly NFT should be and would be for collectibles or also for art, like as a whole, right, for the creative industry. And so we are, well, at first I didn't want to get too active in the NFT space yet, because beginning of 2021, we felt there were too much noise, right? There were a lot of sort of Hollywood type of style investment. Like there's like, the Beeple piece obviously rocked the boat, right? Like everyone, like our LPs or some of the wealthy individuals, wealthy family that we work with, they're not tech savvy, right? We talk to them about crypto market and all kinds of things about blockchain, but they were just kind of listening, right? They were into it. But since the beginning of 2020, because all these wealthy folks, right, like investors, they are art collectors. So they started listening to, actually, I sent them sort of like a report or something like, like a boss joke type of analysis around the Christmas 2020. I didn't get too much of a response, right? Like, okay, it's cool. And but I told them the market was huge already. Like, start thinking. But then by February, I got lots of calls. Like I kind of like, I'm not sure. Like, we really jump in that fast, right? Like the sentiment shift tremendously, and I was a bit like, I think that might be a wrong direction because everyone is calling. That means that it's too much noise, and then it won't be a good time to start jumping into it, right? So, but in any case, we feel like there are a lot of opportunities, and I want to see more something kind of like the Avagachi, right? It's like a lot more things you can do with the NFT. I love the NFT art space as well, but I think there are more innovation can be done there. It's not just putting stuff in the ledger and that's it, right? I think, for example, async art is interesting because they're creating the layer art platform to empower artists to collaborate and create layers, and then that is interesting. That's something not going to be just a GIF file putting on blockchain, right? So I think those are the things that we're looking at for the time being.
Excellent. Yeah, I also wanted to kind of like dive into one of the topics that you've mentioned. So like, I guess I can ask Coding Cross this, like with like you kind of seen the expansive growth of the NFT and DeFi industry, and like how has this affected the growth of like Avagachis as like collateral?
Well, Avagachi's as collateral, yeah, that's something we're always pursuing. We've always envisioned the Avagachi to ultimately be NFTs as collateral in general is something that's coming, and you're seeing iterations of that right now with some of the DeFi platforms. And yeah, when we got started this time last year, conceptualizing and presenting the idea for Avagachi, it was always envisioned as DeFi crossing NFTs. Now that's kind of like there's a lot of that out there, but at the time, even a year ago, that was kind of a fresh idea, and also it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So in our case, we said we are going to be taking collateral from Aave, and these things, what we love about them is how intuitive they are. If you stake, you deposit link tokens on the Aave protocol, you end up getting the A link ERC20 token in return, and you don't have to push a button. They just grow in your wallet. Yesterday you had 1,000 A link, today you have 1,001. So we love intuitive products like that. And so what we saw, we could couple that with an NFT like Abagachi. The timing was really perfect. DeFi was taking off. It was DeFi summer 2020. And then we had the kind of NFTs really hadn't hit yet. That wall that LK just described hadn't really risen yet to the extent we knew. But it was enough where there was a community of hardcore crypto artists and investors. And there was like there was enough momentum there to present the Avagachi idea to the crypto space. And we ended up doing a DAO ICO, so a DAO ICO initiative that it was enough to get the interest and get people on board to support this idea and fund the initial steps of it. So our timing with the market has always been very fortunate, like the right time for the right idea. And then the release and the move to layer 2, again, the problem became apparent when ETH gas fees spiked in January. We were about to launch our 10,000 Avagachis, and the community was totally in support of us going straight to Matic. So we were, I think, the first kind of major Ethereum project, at least with major funding and a currency circulating on Ethereum, to move over successfully to Matic, where we had over 40% of our circulating supply migrated, bridged across within 30 days. And it was because we trialed this kind of concept working with Matic and partners like QuickSwap to create incentives to get our community that was holding Ghost token to consider moving over. One-sided staking benefits, and also other staking on QuickSwap to earn the Quick token. All those kind of liquidity incentives were put into place. And another example, it's pretty much DeFi, right? So another example of DeFi and NFTs really working together to make Avagachi successful. So yeah, we've been very successful with the timing and also just reading the market and identifying needs and avoiding problems. So if we had launched on Ethereum like we were originally planning, I don't know where we'd be today, but that was definitely a bullet dodged, because nobody's going to pay $20 to pet their Avagachi. And so we're really happy where we are, and the community is thriving.
Yeah, like similar to like when it was DeFi summer, I remember gas fees were astronomical. It was like 300 plus Gwei, and then due to time to congestion, it would go to like 500. I even saw it like almost close to 1,000 at one time, and I was like, this is not sustainable, especially if you want to do an interaction with an NFT. And then like, DeFi summer was really, really kicking off, and, a lot of platforms were really building their infrastructure. And I guess for LK, like, how do you guys evaluate the investment side for like NFT collectibles and platforms?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, right? So there are now, like I said, there are really a lot of sort of noise out there, right? Like, so I guess, we started looking at the mobile games, right, for quite some time. And then you think about it, there are so many apps upload to the Google Play or iOS stores. Back in the day, it was like, it was so much, right? So competitive. But building an app takes time, right? Even it's like a simple games. would still take a while, half a year or longer. But now, like if you look at the NFT drops on whichever marketplaces you name it, right? It's like I don't know how much, like the magnitude, like the number, the quantity, is just way more than even just apps, right? So I think that the whole sort of paradigm is really changed, and so that's why we started like at the end of the day we are very familiar with like financial products and such, right? So at first, I mean, DeFi is interesting, but we weren't sure like what would be the entry point for us, right? We did want to just look at DeFi as a DeFi, but now we're looking at like DeFi or adding DeFi components to the NFT. We feel like it's very interesting. And so when it comes to evaluation, I think if you're looking at, for example, specific sort of artists or creators, and then I think it's kind of a bit like investing in the people, right? Like if whether it's collectibles, whether it's NFT art, right? When I look at collectibles, maybe something like maybe lower tech than Avagachi, right? Could be just like CryptoPunk is not that low tech, but there are like now a lot of other collectibles like crypto apes, crypto whatever, like XYZ, right? So I think it's really kind of like look at how the team approaches, right? Like the people, and then like what sort of interesting idea around it, and then for us, I think we also recommend if you were just individual sort of collectors or investors, it would be better to look at a portfolio, right? So, or we also, if we want to really evaluate, right, we kind of look at it more like a network. So we had been investing in like social media platforms, stuff like that, right? At the end of the day, it's really the network that is valuable. So then we're not like kind of working with like the whale community, right? So they amass, I don't know, huge number of NFT in their portfolios. So for certain folks who are not that sure how to invest in particular piece of collectibles or art pieces, then I think it would be nice to maybe invest in the social tokens, which encapsulate a portfolio of NFTs. So they invest in like NBA Top Shot, they invest like in metaverse and stuff like that, right? So that's kind of, I would say, what we look at. We like to invest more like, I would describe it as like, investing in the river versus investing into just one boat or ships or cruise. So once in a while we find like very amazing artists, amazing group, then we will sort of invest directly in them. Otherwise, like we are seeing some interesting new developments in other chain. For example, even Tezos. There is a new marketplace called Huynh. It's a bit hard to pronounce, but that one is exploding organically. Like, it was funded by a foundation, and then a lot of artists are backing it in a way that supporting it, minting their art pieces there, and then they're organizing a lot of community activities. So we wouldn't be able to invest directly in that particular platform, right? But then we are investing in more in the Tezos blockchain, for example. And but yeah, so I think there are a lot of different sort of criteria now that you can look at. But what really comes down to is like the network, the people, and I would suggest like really look a bit broader scope, not just one individual. Like, I would probably like look at Avagotchi as one network, and then would be something that could be worth to look into, right? Like, CryptoPunks, it at the end of the day sort of created that network that now in the secondary market they accumulated more than 250 million in total, right? That's pretty decent size for 10,000 of pixel art, right? So that is, I mean, to be honest with you, I think, especially for us, or like for VC, for more institutional investors, that definitely rock our boat in a way. It changes our evaluation process, because what a lot of these sort of NFT pieces wouldn't have exactly the individual, their own technical development, so it's a lot harder. But really love to see how DeFi will evolve, and yes, I love to see how NFT can become would have the intrinsic value that can be a collateral. Because right now, I think a lot of times you can only generate yield by depositing the actual currency, right, to this DeFi protocol. But what if I deposit my Beeple NFT? Would I get huge amount of like sort of collateral value out of it, right? It should be, right? Because I think there is a secondary market, and Christie is sort of approving it. But I don't think the bank sort of structure, the banking system, know how to evaluate that. So that's yet to see. I would love to see. And I've seen a few other platforms like Charged Particles. I don't know if you heard of them. Yeah. They are kind of like, making it much more interoperable across the board, right? So then they can charge your NFT with some of the interest-bearing assets, and that would be interesting to see. And I have a question, if you don't mind, just really jump the schedule a little bit. So Golden Cross, right? So you guys are, name your platform as Aavegotchi, right? So are you going to stick with only one protocol, only one? Oh. Not Compound, no someone else? I'm just curious.
There's some alpha coming out.
We're good friends with Aave, and have when we first got started, we approached them and wanted to make sure, can we have the name Avagachi? Is there any issue there? And they really like what we presented, because it almost encourages the opposite of degen activity. They're like, this is great. You're actually a savings account.
Why not? Yeah.
Good behavior. And so from there, we developed a great relationship with them, and I don't see us onboarding others anytime soon. Okay. That said, the Gachi part is kind of our nod to, we want this to not just be like a kind of scarcity meme where there's only going to be 10,000 Avagachis ever. Instead, that's the first generation. But we do see it proliferating and being a kind of more potential for mass adoption and crossing that chasm to the mainstream. And to do that, there might be other species of gachis in the future. Mm-hmm. That's totally possible. We published a new roadmap about 6 weeks ago that really details out how we plan to get there. And for sure, we love what we're doing on Polygon and Matic. We love the Aave-centric aspects of Avagachi, but the brand itself has potential to be much bigger and cross chains and do all of those things. So, I can't say much about that, but for the time being, we're pretty cozy.
Okay. I mean, there's always trade-off, right? Now you're very focused, and I guess you will get a lot more critical mass by doing that. So down the road will be interesting. Yeah, add some other animals and other species to your universe.
It could be very well populated. So we have a metaverse coming in. There's a lot of room.
Yeah, like one thing I like that like you guys what you built is like there's like the wearables and consumable side. Like, can you kind of like elaborate more on them? Like why you guys decided to make it to where you can add clothes to Avagachi, you can start feeding them, like having these consumables as well.
Yeah, so I was kind of obsessed with staking ERC20s into a 721 from an early stage, and then my co-founder Coder Dan, he was more obsessed. He was over there working with ERC 998s, and he was obsessing over this rarely used standard that lets you link composable NFTs, so the NFTs can all be linked together. So the parent NFT moves to a different wallet, all these other NFTs move with it. And it wasn't getting much adoption. I think the main reason is it's quite gas intensive to make that execute, and they're rather large contracts to write. But once we started realizing early on, like we always had a layer 2 plan, because we just thought it'd be a 2-step. We didn't know we'd go straight there. But we said, okay, if we're going to be on a layer 2 and the gas isn't an issue, maybe we could do this. And we actually reached out to the EIP authors of the 998 very early on. And that's where we got our CTO on board, Nick Mudge, who is the author of the 998 standard. And so we got him involved, and then he also uses the Diamond standard. He's the author of another standard that's getting really adopted now for upgradable contracts. We take advantage of both of those. And so all of that background said, it just made it a lot more interesting to have an Avagachi as the base layer. It's a 721, but all of the clothes you can equip to it, the wearables, are 1155s. So we just wanted to use every standard that exists. We just said, let's try to use all of them. And the end result is you have an Avagachi that's born with a certain rarity score generated from the Chainlink random number generator, their VRF oracle. It's born, it has this random personality traits, and then it has a base rarity score. When you put it all together, it says, okay, you're a 480, not bad. More than 500, you're really good. And then you say, okay, I can improve this though by equipping some wearables. And so you put the hat on, the facial beard, and next thing you know, you're climbing the leaderboard chart for having the best rarity score. And so that was really important to have this dynamic rarity. We're kind of obsessed with this idea that rarity shouldn't be a static thing. And if there's ways you can actually nudge your or make your Avagachi evolve over time, it'll make it a lot more interesting. Because petting alone isn't really a good reason. Like, I'm petting it, if I'm just petting it to pet it, it's a chore. But if I'm petting it to cash in and earn something that I can cash in to actually modify my Avagachi over time, it gets a lot more interesting. So in that way, it's more like a traditional RPG or a Pokemon, where you're leveling up over time. We kind of have 3 verticals that you level up. So there's the rarity score, the kinship score, and the XP, the experience points. And they're each represent very distinct things we want our users to do, and we want to incentivize. So experience is if you're active in our Discord and you're voting in the DAO, you get airdropped experience points, not to your wallet, but directly to the Avagachi. And then same with kinship, you have to manually do that. You have to take care of it and interact with it daily. And then the final one is the rarity score itself with the wearables. So it's kind of, they all interplay. And what you end up with is a pretty complex organism that you can get attached to. That's kind of the idea ultimately. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah. It's interesting because, you know, being able to.
I know I shouldn't like hijack the conversation, but maybe if there's the time, I just wonder how you think of, you know, I guess you guys are different than like NBA Top Shot or some other sort of type of collectibles, right? You guys have a little bit more gamified sort of experience, and then more interactive as well, because the way you guys approach it. But to a certain extent, it is similar to the Axie Infinity. So they started like creating this universe of kind of like creatures. And then, but they got into creating properties like lands and stuff like that. I'm just curious, like, if that would be something you guys would add on. Yeah, this is personal.
Yeah. So first, Axie Infinity is awesome. They are doing an amazing job. They've shown the way on how to do a community right and how to continually iterate. They had about a 3-year head start on us, so we're definitely looking to them as inspiration. But I think there's just different goals ultimately. It's a different gaming experience, let's put it that way. It's like 2 different video games that could be a lot of fun each. So there is a land aspect or a metaverse aspect, which is what we're hard at work on now. Basically the burning the midnight candle, just building out this metaverse. We've hired, I don't know how many, the team, like I basically have become an HR department. So we're hiring out Solidity devs, but also a lot of game developers, people from gaming backgrounds that are real game makers, and putting together a team that can realize the vision that we've put out in this light paper, and it's pretty exciting. So yeah, there's going to be parcels, a world for your Avagachis to live in, and kind of like what we did with the the Avagachi as an NFT that has all the bells and whistles we wanted to play with, like this is what an NFT could be. I'd like to think that's what we're doing with the metaverse too. We're trying to create a metaverse that In some ways, it's very simple. You mentioned going from 2D to 3D with Sandbox. We're going the other way. We're going to do a top-down 2D pixelated world that's kind of like Legend of Zelda with microdoses of acid. And then you basically have this opportunity to maybe do some DeFi. There's going to be a lot of DeFi aspects that have yet to be announced. But yeah, we want the metaverse to be something that's kind of living and breathing, if that makes sense. And we'll be chock full of NFTs and DeFi. So yeah, Axi's a great inspiration though, for sure. And I'd say like the NBA Top Shots of the world, they're doing another kind of route that I think is great for mass adoption. Ours is different in that we kind of are running to crypto. Like there's crypto, and if you're a crypto nerd, you're going to love Avagachi because yeah, you get to read on all the standards and oh, this is what you can do with that standard, and oh, on layer 2, and you know, the NFT is a wallet; it can hold my coins.
Yep.
So we're kind of the opposite in that way, but I think both ways are necessary and both ways are very valuable and have a lot of potential.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Sorry, Michael.
No worries. And kind of like, and also kind of like some concluding thoughts as well. It's like, where do you guys see the future outlook of collectible NFT industry, and how can NFTs power a lot of innovation in DeFi? Like we've seen already kind of like Dapper Labs and you know, NBA Top Shots, and the NFT craze it's still here, and I really think that it's, you know, just beginning. And you know, me personally, I think there's a lot more growth that's going to happen within the industry, but I also want to hear like your perspectives, you know, being on the ground running and kind of like investing and also building these NFTs as well.
Okay, you want to go first or me?
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I definitely would like and be very interested to look into more the DeFi components in NFT. And also like just now we mentioned about like how NFT, right, as an asset, not just, you know, how it can be an asset that can generate yields in a DeFi protocol, not just like using the currencies to generate yield. And then we'll see how DeFi can change how the NFT distribution and the economy. Like for example, right now, most of the time, right, like selling NFT is a bit like the traditional e-commerce transactions. It's just like a one-off. You're selling your craft like on Etsy, and then that's it, right? Yes, there are a lot of sort of relationship building through the social media, right? For example, like Discord and all this that enable the collectors to connect with the artists, and then in a way supporting them, backing them to grow, and that would help, you know, the piece that you collected to appreciate value, right? So, but I guess we could go further, right? Just like how VCs backing ventures. So could the DeFi component be used in a way that can collector backing, right, funding this artists with ongoing funding, ongoing sort of revenue, so then they can sustain and survive, not becomes getting into this popularity contest, right? Like how many of us of them can be the next people, right? Which, I mean, people is fantastic, but I think it's really hard to get another sort of 70 million type of transactions, right? So I think we really need to look at what is the underlying goal for artists to be part of this. And I don't want to take up too much time, but recently we saw this interesting model of the NFT dropped by the DJ Marshmallow. So they integrated with the Aave protocol. So instead of the collector, it will put in their money, but instead of going directly to the artist, the money will go to the Aave pool, the liquidity, and then it will generate interest, hopefully high enough to fund the artist on an ongoing basis. And then if, you know, at the time of sort of redemption, if the collectors want to withdraw the money, then 10% of the, you know, 5.8 million of bidding amount would go to the artist, and then 90% goes back to the collector. But then the NFT art piece will go back to the artist. So this is kind of very new, interesting model. I don't think is the final model. It can be evolved, and I would love to see more of it. And then again, I want to see how we can evaluate NFT and sort of give it a price tag, and then can go to the bank and say, okay, I'm running out of money. I want to use it to get a mortgage for my house, right? Something like that, right? Those are really good assets. I think we can do that with Picasso painting, but I don't think we can do that with NFT at the moment. So we want to see how the industry can evolve from here on. Thank you.
That reminds me of one of my favorite things of the Avagachi, which is a little bit more long-term. It literally takes time to make it realized. You can't just program it in, and that is actually having the Avagachi evolve over time. Like we were saying, now a lot of the dynamic traits are interesting, but you also have a very key feature we included called the pocket. So these are kind of like NFT wallets. They have a pocket in your Avagachi, and if it's holding Ghost token or other tokens, sure, you can transfer in and out, withdraw. But you also have your Avagachi can hold. We can deposit 1155 NFTs inside that are badges, much like a POAP badge, except it's programmed to be non-transferable. So once we deposit in, it's with that Avagachi forever. And one of the reasons we did this is we really envision Avagachi long-term playing that kind of collateralized role, and also as like a Web3 avatar. And to really realize that, you need identity. And if you want to get that loan, maybe, right now all the DeFi loans are based on collateral, but maybe in the future, it'll be more like the real world where we also have credit scores. And we would love to, and we are building towards something where you could actually look at your Avagachi and it's got, major DAO votes that you participated in. It proves that you provided liquidity on a major, to a significant amount on Uniswap or Aave, and you took out a loan and you paid it back and you got this badge. Whatever it could be, these badges can be incorporated into an Avagachi, and then long-term that could make for some very interesting interoperable use cases for the Avagachi. So that's one of my favorite features, and what you just said there kind of reminded me of it. Yeah. As far as the wider space and the question you asked, Michael, I think for me, yeah, there's going to be spikes in interest in NFTs and growing pains. But then I think for the long term, NFTs represent a restructuring of incentives between the creators or the companies and their communities. So if you get in on, back in the day when we were in high school, we'd have our secret band, and if they blew up, you go to all their shows, and then if they got really famous and they signed a deal and they got some corny music video made, you'd say they sold out, and you write them off. But now it's like, no, I got that guy's NFT, I got that band's NFT from back in the day. I rise with them, right? My portfolio rises with them. So incentives are more aligned. Maybe they still sold out, I don't know, but at least I'm along for the ride with them. And so it's the incentives that are really key, and the projects that'll probably have the longest legs are the ones that figure out how to incorporate their community into the winnings. So the play to earn model that we're working on with our leaderboards, taking care of your Avagachi pays you. You earn Ghost for taking care of your Avagachi. Every 2 weeks, we pay out over $350,000 worth of Ghost for the last 2 months, because it's 40% of our original sales revenue gets reinvested back into the community. So the model's being tweaked, and it's very interesting. It has room for improvement, but these are the kind of things I think that NFT creators and projects need to look at if they want to have longevity and not just be a flash in the pan. It's like, how do we incentivize long-term aligned interests? And then everybody's more engaged, everybody's winning, and the incentives are aligned for long-term growth as opposed to short-term. So that's always in the back of our mind when we're trying to design the product for this metaverse, is like, how do we design it for inclusivity and long-term success for everybody?
Yeah, like with That's interesting. Having it to where what you said earlier is like having it to where you have the NFT grow with you. You know, have that identity on the blockchain, saying that I was the one that participated in this vote. You know, let's say if it's a really controversial vote, like how it's like the when YFI was kind of voting if they wanted to increase their their maximum allocation for their tokens. You know, it's pretty interesting having like the identity kind of like really stay with that NFT, and I think that's something that can really show benefits, because like let's say for example if I buy an Avagachi that has really good credit score, you know, I can get better loans.
Yeah, that's what we hope for. That's the dream. But I hate KYC, and this could be a standard as a pseudo anonymous, you know, way to maybe get a little bonus or multiplier effect on a loan.
So the girls need to behave and keep up their credit score.
Make sure they pay off the debt, don't get liquidated. Exactly. Don't enter margin positions, you know.
Don't go with Robinhood.
Yeah, don't 100x. But you know, I like to really thank you guys for providing your insights and really joining and taking your time out of your day to participate in DeFi Summit. You know, we're truly happy to really have a lot of insights from you guys and being able to understand kind of like the different sides of it as well, whether one from the creator side and also one from the investment side as well. You know, basically seeing both bridges and how the intrinsic value has to come through NFTs and how we can build those virtual collectibles for mainstream adoption, whether it's through let's say having digital collectibles or having NFTs that represent other things, like let's say having collateral based in them for DeFi. I really think that this really would help the industry grow. In terms of understanding more of the different standards and being able to kind of interact more with blockchain technology. So yeah, once again, I'd like to thank you guys, and for you guys listening as well, make sure that you guys are checking them out on socials as well if you want to really connect with them. And until next time.